Today I'm going to be working on my agent reports for a provider. It is Wednesday and I am doing agent reports or doing the agent report for this provider for the morning. So it's going to take me a few hours, maybe about 2 to 3 hours. I just want to go through the whole thing one time. If you don't know me, my name is Tamika. I'm a certified professional biller, a certified professional practice manager, and a self-employed medical biller. So I'm just going to take you along with me today to go over what I do when it comes to agent reports. I like to print out my agent reports so I can have it physically there to actually check off what I've done, what I've completed. And I use these two highlighters. This is for when it's completely done. This is for things that I have to go back to, and then I kind of delineate whether it's a question mark or a star, something like that. This morning I am having problems with my internet, and I feel like it's because the minute that I want to really do something, this internet really acts up. If you haven't watched my other video, it might come out before or after this one that's talking about the tools and technology that I use, and I let you know that the internet is one of the things that I definitely need. And so said, so done. The internet is acting up, which means if it's acting up, I can't do what I want to do. I already printed out the agent report from the cloud practice management system, so that was complete. But of course, I need to go into the system. But it looks like it's working. It's working slowly, which is also giving me a headache because I want to move. I want to move quickly. I don't want to take forever to do this one thing. Anyway, so that's what I'm working on today. I hope you can get a little bit of insight on how I work agent reports. So how I do them as far as going through them, it depends on a few things. If I have something like that's really old that I've been working on, I try to do that first. If there are certain insurances that the timely filing is, let's say 60 short days, 30, 60 days, I try to work those. And then, like I said, if they're real problem issues, some things are just maybe that I didn't get the EOB or the remittance advice into the system, and so that's why they're not there. So it's not that they weren't paid, they just wasn't posted. There are different scenarios, so I'm going to try and go through some of them with you and let you know what's going on. I also try to do them in groups because if I'm working on a particular insurance payer, instead of doing it for one patient and then going into another payer or doing something else and doing it again for another patient that had the insurance. So say I'm doing Blue Cross Blue Shield and there are 5 patients that I have to look into that has Blue Cross Blue Shield. I might as well just do all of those instead of doing one and then stopping and maybe doing one that has a United Healthcare or UMR and then having to go back to Blue Cross Blue Shield, because depending on where I'm looking or if I have to make a phone call, it just makes better sense to do all of it at one time and stop going back and forth. So I really try to pay attention to that. Right now I'm logging into Availity to just check on some claims to see if they were actually paid or not, or if it's something that I have to go through or check. With the authenticators, you need to make sure, got to authenticate it, whether it's through a text or something. So that's what I'm doing right now for that. I mean, I like the additional security, but sometimes it gets crazy where it's who wants to have to keep doing this? But I get it. Like I said, it can get a little annoying, but I get it. So in Availity, I'm going to look up, like I said, some Blue Cross Blue Shield claims that I have here just to make sure whether they just need to post or what was the status basically of the claims that's outstanding. So this first one is for a service done on 4/9. No, sorry. The service was done on 3 25. Have to do that over. When you print an agent report, you have to understand where certain information is located. So you might have like this one has the client's name, the invoice date, which is not the date of service. You need to make sure you know the service date or date of service, and then it has all the other information. So this one was finalized. It has a claim number, so that's how you know it has been at least processed, and it was applied to the patient's deductible. So this one, let me see why. A lot of times in this system that I'm using, the ERAs do not come over into the system. And so I've been trying to get it set up. It's been like it's been about 4 months trying to get it set up. It's always a back and forth. You have to go through the practice management system, which has to go through the clearinghouse. And sometimes it could be a hassle. So you might think that something is not paid, but in actuality, it is paid. It's just that it didn't come through the system. So I'm checking to see why this wasn't in there. And I'm going to manually post it, but I need to also follow up on why it's not coming through automatically, because it's wasting a lot of time. A lot of these things probably don't belong on the agent report, because if they have already been paid or at least processed, they don't have to be paid, but at least processed. Like this one, it was processed, it didn't pay anything because the complete $140 went to the patient's deductible. Actually, and I don't think it's the complete $140. That was what was billed, but I think the allowed amount is $122.22, and that went to the patient's deductible. But see, even that I can't see here, and I need to see why. Okay, to 325. So in actuality, sometimes you have to do a little bit of investigating, because on this agent report, it is printing that the insurance company is still owing $122.22, and they're saying Blue Cross Blue Shield, which is what the amount was, like I said, that went to the deductible. But the patient has a secondary insurance, which is WellSense, and it is in process with them. So my question is, either it is not documented correctly in the system. Why is it still showing that Blue Cross is who owes, which it should not be Blue Cross. It should be WellSense. So all of this it's only taking a couple minutes, and I know what to look for, but it's taking time out that does not need to be taken out. So now I'm going to pull up WellSense as well, because we've had issues with them. So a lot of times, thank God, it is not a serious issue, but it is taking up precious time that probably didn't need to be taken up. And as for like passwords and stuff for the different portals, for the different payers, I do not store the passwords in the computer. Like, how it has where you can save it for the future, and I don't store it. You never know who can get access to your computer, and if they do and they start logging into stuff, I never store it. Every time it asks me if you want to store it, no, I don't. I will put it in each and every time if I need to, but I do not ever store the passwords at all. I know it's supposed to be convenient and helpful, but I just don't do it. I don't think it's very secure. So I'm looking in WellSense to see what is the status of this particular claim. And like I said, I am prepared all morning to work on the agent. I just want to get it done. Okay, so it appears that it was, I need to make this screen smaller. Oh, okay, because I'm trying to figure out why it looks like this. Okay, so it appears that it was then forwarded to the secondary, and it was processed on May 1st, and they paid, out of the 122.22, they paid 118.38, and that is where it's going to be capped because the EOB number one is not available, which means that it is not finalized. So they are going to pay 118 and change, but they haven't paid it yet, even though they processed it on May 1st. So that's something to make sure that I document it on my paper and also in the system. But like I said, this secondary is a Medicaid and the primary is a commercial. So it was billed $140. The allowed amount for the primary was $122.22. That went to the deductible. And then it went to the secondary, and the secondary is going to pay $118.38, which means we need to write off the difference between the $122.22 and the $118.38. We need to write off the difference because the secondary is a federal payer, Medicaid, and the patient should not be billed. Now, actually going through one of these claims where the insurance company, I'm still on WellSense, where the insurance company had come up with a new policy or a new rule to have the taxonomy codes on the claims. I think that was the case. And they kind of just, they came out with it. I guess the notice wasn't clear, or it wasn't, the providers didn't pick up on it on time. And so a lot of claims were denied. And then they decided that so much claims were denied because they didn't have on the taxonomy code that they would just reprocess over the claims without the payers having to send in a corrected claim with the taxonomy code on them. However, after looking through through my agent reports, I'm noticing that this has been a while and that they should have been reprocessed already. So I know that they said it would do it, and I'm not going to send a corrected claim, but I am going to call just to make sure that it says that it's in process. So I'm pretty sure that they are working on it. Maybe they're backlogged because apparently there were a lot of providers that this happened to, but I'm going to call anyway, just to be on the safe side and make sure that they didn't overlook some of them, because there are so many claims that they had to do over. They probably overlooked some, and I just don't want them to overlook ours. So I'm going to just call to be on the safe side. But sometimes that happens, and it was nice of them to decide that they were going to just reprocess the claim without us having to send in any corrected claim. But again, it's our responsibility to make sure that they actually do pay the claim and not overlook it, because it's easy for them to overlook the claim. So that's what I'm working on. There are a few like that, so I'm just going through those few that I have, and it's not a few, it's a couple, maybe about 8 or so. So I'm gonna go through that just to check and see what's going on, make sure that they actually are getting paid. Because like this one here, come on, my computer is really acting up today. I'm trying not to get frustrated, but it is acting up today. The date of service is 4/3. So that's what I'm checking on. I'll be right back and let you know what else I'm working on today. So I bumped up on another case, and this one is coordination of benefits. So I thought I will tell you or talk to you about this. This patient has 2 insurances. One is a commercial, one is a Medicaid. And presently, the Medicaid is paying as primary for the patient. So the claims are being paid, being fully paid by the allowed amount, but it is still incorrect because the primary is being bypassed altogether. And eventually, something is going to go on, and there's going to be an issue. So the patient needs to coordinate benefits. Let the commercial know about Medicaid, let Medicaid know about the commercial, so that the claims can be processed correctly. When it comes to coordination of benefits, the biller, myself, the practice, no one can coordinate benefits for the patient but the insured. So whoever's the insured of the plans that they have, that is the person who can coordinate benefits. We can't do that, but we need to stay up on it, because if we continue to send in claims and the secondary continues to pay, eventually it's going to be a big mix up with asking back for money, with all of that stuff, and it needs to be fixed. So I'm working on that right now. The claims are being paid. I'm noticing that some of the claims are not even on the agent report because they are being paid, but they're being paid incorrectly. So that is something that a biller should know and should catch when they're going through the agent reports. I just got off the phone with an insurance company, and this is going to be the last thing that I go through in this video, but I had to just bring this up. I called an insurance company because, again, I'm going through the agent, and the corrected claim that I submitted is processing as duplicates. I realize that happens a lot with the insurances, because I don't know if when they're reprocessing the corrected claims, if it's a automated thing, if it's a computer thing, or if someone is manually going through them. But I noticed that if I send in 10, like 5, 6 of them I have to call about to say this is not a duplicate, this is a corrected claim. So I called, this is UMR that I called, and the rep is telling me that in order for me to process the corrected claim, I have to send a voided claim, and then they can process the corrected claim. It took everything in me to just be like, what are you talking about? Because they are in the payer's office, they can hang up the phone, do whatever they want. So I started to try and explain to the rep, well, this is not a voided claim. It is a legitimate date. It just was missing a modifier, so it should not be voided, but it's corrected. I use the correct code, which is 7, and the original claim number, but he insisted that I should void the claim. Then he finally said I can speak to a claim adjuster, I think it was. So I said, okay, fine, I'll speak to that claim adjuster. Spoke to the claim adjuster, and they reprocessed it, or they're sending it back to be reprocessed, which is what he should have done. This is all to say that some of the reps that you speak to at the payers, organization, I'm not sure if they fully know what is the rules. And sometimes you either just have to, like, I got him to pass me to someone else and not hang up the phone, which I really thought he was going to hang up the phone. But I got him to pass the call to someone else who could help me. But if that doesn't work, sometimes you just have to hang up, say thank you, and then call right back. This is a lot of what we do as billers. And so I have been through, a couple of scenarios through this agent report that I'm working on today, and I just wanted to come on and let you know that last thing. So I hope this video was helpful for you. If you have any questions about agent, AR, the reports, let me know in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel, and I will see you again in my next video.